welcome to my channel. This is Virginia, and today I'll analyze this full moon in Capricorn on July 10th at 4:35 p.m. Eastern Time. This reading is for the collective, and I will make a specific interpretation of how this full moon will affect the US, and then I will post separate videos for each of the signs, so stay tuned. As always, full moons are completions as the moon reaches fullness, or confrontations as the moon is opposed to the sun, and terminations due to completions or confrontations, or a mix of both. Now, this full moon is at 18 degrees with 49 minutes of Capricorn, so is ruled by Saturn. And Capricorn is the sign associated with the 10th house of career and reputation, indicating success or hierarchy. Capricorn is the goat that reaches all the way to the top of the mountain due to personal effort. And 18 degrees is a Virgo degree. And Virgo rules the 6th house, which rules routine, work, and health or service. So this is a theme that has to do with career and work most likely. If we check the Sabian symbol and we round up to 19 degrees Cap, is a child with a bag of groceries, which speaks of accelerated growth, for better or for worse, and premature responsibilities. And this reminds me, when I was a child, around that age, maybe 6 years old, my mom sent me to the bakery that was very nearby to buy 200 grams of yeast, and instead I ordered 200 kilos. So and this is back in Argentina, so the world was quite different back then. And the seller said, is 200 grams or 200 kilos? And I said, oh, I don't know, let me go back and ask. And she said, no, it's 200 grams. And I didn't know that she was pulling my leg. And I said, what about if it is 200 kilos? And she said, that wouldn't fit in this bakery. So this Sabian symbol remind me of that experience of having to take responsibilities when you're not yet ready, and still you're able to pull that off. Now, the moon is in detriment in Capricorn because it's opposed to Cancer, where she's the ruler in Cancer. The moon represents the mood, the body, the emotions, motherhood, home. But Capricorn is all about work. So we are in Cancer season. We're in summer season. We don't want to work. We want to vacay. And this moon is out of bounds if you see the table to the right, the upper right. So out of bounds means that it's out of the control of the sun's domain. So this moon is moody and wants to do what it wants to do. And Saturn, ruler of Capricorn and therefore of this moon, the so-called great malefic, though in astrology malefics and benefics don't necessarily mean good or bad, but rather easy or challenging energy, is associated with authority, with patriarchy, with establishment, with rules and regulations, is the planet of governments too. Saturn is the planet of the big lessons in life. I like to call it the great teacher. And what does the teacher do? It grades you, it tests you, either compensates you or otherwise, for better or for worse. Saturn is dense and constrict and is about limits and boundaries, so is the ruler of matter. But Saturn is in Aries, and Saturn is at fall in Aries, because it's opposite Libra, where it's exalted, because Libra gets the scales of justice, and Saturn is the archetype of a judge. But in Aries, the kinetic cardinal fire sign of war, Saturn becomes the general. And Saturn much rather be in the court than in a battlefield, like our politicians, for example. So both the full moon and her ruler are afflicted. And you can see that in the score on the tables on the lower right, which gives an overall negative. Now, this for the collective is more of a completion or a release of something related with career, higher goals and aspirations, or reputation, either due to completing a term, like a graduation, for example, or a change in aspirations, like a career change, or retirement. that will allow you to pursue your hobby. And Saturn, in conjunction with Neptune, the planet of illusion and spirituality, but also disillusion and delusion, brings the question about if our dreams, Neptune, are realistic enough, Saturn, in order to let go of a career, maybe to favor a hobby. And because these two are in a grand sextile with the outer planets, there's a big conversation about how we need to transform and reinvent ourselves with Pluto, the planet of death, rebirth, and transformation in Aquarius, the sign of the collective, and how radical we want to be with Uranus, the planet of shock and upheaval, to make a sudden change that rocks the boat. And Uranus is at 0 degrees Gemini since its ingress on Monday. So if Uranus was at the 29 critical degree for the last new moon, now at 0 degrees is the most cardinal degree and is an immutable, meaning a changeable sign. So it's uber critical. But because it's a slow-moving planet, is a 7-year transit through the sign, so we are not going to make this change overnight. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury, and it's going to intensify all themes related to communication, thinking, ideas, writing, movement like commute, relationship with peers, neighbors, siblings, cousins, is going to favor the tech and AI sector and crypto, etc. The rocking of the boat, it could be both for better and for worse. In the bigger picture with this grand sextile is for a higher reason. Now, recently we had Venus conjunct with Uranus too, so this implies changes in either love or financials, because Venus rules beauty, harmony, love, pleasure, luxury, money, cash flow. And Venus is trine Pluto, facilitating the transformation in how we communicate, like our love language, or how we transact, because it's in Gemini, the planet that is ruled by Mercury, the merchant. But Venus is in an aversion with Jupiter, so both benefics are at odds. This is like a blind spot. So Jupiter is too comfortable in Cancer, and Gemini is the 12th house of loss for Jupiter. So we can run the risk of being too comfortable. But thankfully, the full moon is in a flow with the nodes of fate. The North Node is in Pisces, representing spirituality, raising the bar, and is ruled traditionally by Neptune and in modern astrology by Jupiter. Jupiter is exalted for a whole year in Cancer, benefiting our future. And Neptune is in a conjunction with Saturn, the ruler of the full moon, working together to manifest goals. And in the sign of Aries, which is the sign of new beginnings, which is ruled by Mars, the planet of action, this is action towards new beginnings. And Mars is in Virgo, which is an earth sign that helps us ground. Our intentions is mutable, so we are adaptable to the changes, and is very detail oriented, so there's precision in this change. And Mars is in a trine with the full moon, therefore it supports the mission. So this is a precise move, grounded in reality, supporting the release, whatever this release is. And with the south node of letting go in Virgo, we might give up on perfectionism that keeps us stuck. And Mars is in an aversion with Mercury, and Mercury is in shadow in Leo. So this is another blind spot for what we might need to revisit whatever we do in our creative part of the chart when Mercury retrogrades. And that goes both for creative projects or things more like recreation or procreation as well. And at least there's a mutual reception here, because Mars is in Virgo and Mercury is in Leo, and Mercury much rather be in Virgo, and Mars loves being in Leo. So they're working together, even though it seems like they're not even speaking the same language. They're trying to communicate somehow. So overall, I don't see this as a negative full moon, but rather as a transition to something new that is due. And this is with the occasional growing pains that come with the territory, as what's ideal is not real, and this is very much real indeed. So let's see now for the US. So this full moon falls in the financial axis, with the moon in the second house of income and the sun in the eighth house of investments. And we have power planet Pluto, which just passed the midpoint of the US Pluto and south node of letting go in Aquarius, which is ruled by Uranus, the planet of upheaval, that just entered Gemini. And every time we have Uranus in Gemini, we had a new financial system. And recently we also had Venus conjuncting Uranus in the sixth house of the US. So Venus also rules money and cash flow, and the sixth house is the house of daily routine. Now, when Uranus has been in Gemini in the 1776, we had the financial revolution, moving away from colonial mercantilism to sovereign economic systems. Then in the 1863-64, we had the National Banking Acts, the creation of the national currency and the first steps towards a banking system. Then by 1944, we had the Bretton Woods Agreement with the creation of the IMF and the World Bank. The creation, I meant, not the cremation. That was a Freudian slip. And now, with the AI-driven economies, the cryptocurrencies, and decentralized financial system, there is the speculation that it might come the central bank digital currency, what they call the CBDC, which might be attached to a digital identity and digital payment systems, which could be a problem because that is what is being linked to the mark of the beast. But that's a subject for another video. Anyway, the Jupiter-Pluto midpoint, which is a wealth point, is about to transit the US Chiron. Chiron is the wounded healer, the place where we hurt and where we heal. And in the markets, it has a corrective action and is in the fourth house of homeland. So there is some pain point here that they might want to pretend to heal by making some kind of offer. We'll see. Now, with the Neptune retrograde and Saturn about to go retrograde soon, this also refers to the state of affairs of the world. And Neptune is also the ruler of illusion and deception, and it represents the media, what I like to call the weapons of mass distraction, if it rings a bell. And Saturn in Aries, being the general, it's a very bellicose energy. There are travel advisories for U.S. citizens abroad that they are warned about the possibility of being targeted in certain regions, and the warnings were issued by the Department of State. But Neptune also rules weather, especially water, and being retrograde and aiming to Saturn and getting very, very close to Saturn before Saturn starts retrograding as well. This can mean restrictions due to abnormal weather conditions, and especially with Chiron in the fourth of homeland, this can be floods like Texas, for example. Now, because they're both below the horizon, there is something hidden. And this could also mean that there is some weather related to military action, like weather warfare, for example, like Operation Popeye, where the CIA and Kissinger extended the monsoon season in Vietnam to delay all military supplies to the region. And this was a highly classified operation. At the time, not even the Secretary of Defense knew about it, and he actually testified in Congress about not having this technology because he was unaware of it. So yes, we've been having weather manipulations for a while right now. And observe the weather, because that's very telling. But these planets are in Aries, which is ruled by Mars, the warrior planet, that happens to be transiting the US ninth house. And the ninth house is foreign affairs and also religion and belief systems. Now, Mars in Virgo is very precise, very strategic, very effective, almost like a scalpel. And this could be taking the key person out, either us to another country or the other way around. But Trump has a history of doing that from the first term with Soleimani. Thankfully, with Jupiter, the great benefic and ruler of the US, because he's a Sag rising, transiting the seventh house of partnerships and also public enemies, but being exalted in the sign of Cancer, we have an opportunity to make deals, peace treaties, and save the day. So we'll see. By the way, over the holiday weekend, I went to the karaoke and sang the anthem. And I'm not even American, but it's a beautiful song. But to my surprise, no one stood up nor sang along, and there was a general apathy. And I almost missed the spirit of unity after 9/11 when I was fresh from the boat. And I caught myself thinking, do we need another 9/11? Because with the upcoming astrology, let me just say that we might have another opportunity for unity, if you know what I mean. I'm curious to know what you think. So if you have any comments or requests, feel free to add them below. Just be civilized, please. And if you need a private reading where I can help you the most, go to astrologybyvirginia.com and know that I will never reach out, so be aware of scammers. With that, I will leave you today. It takes me some time to make these videos and just a sec to like, so please do share the love, subscribe for more, and hit the bell not to miss out. Thank you for your time. See you in the next one, and stay tuned for the sign by signs. Namaste.